On a day like today, where the atmosphere is conducive to producing tornadoes, they're going to warn the storms that look like they can, so you have enough warning in advance. So this is coming right up on Gurdon. There's Sticky Road, Arkansas 53 that runs up towards I-30, and then there's US 67 that also runs up towards I-30 as well. It's going to be moving quickly northeast. It's going to be fast moving. These storms tonight will be moving around 50 miles per hour, some a little bit faster than that. But I think that's the area of broad rotation that we're looking at right there. Arkadelphia, you are included in this tornado warning, but I really think that this is going to stay off to your southeast. This is coming up really out of the Prescott area, and this is all going to stay south of I-30 now. Now it's crossed I-30. It's not going to go back towards I-30. There's a line of storms that's moved through Arkadelphia, but you may have sirens sounding. Your phones have gone off at Henderson State and Washita Baptist, but I really think this kind of stays into more of central Clark County. So if you're really down towards Gurdon, make sure you're in a safe place right now. We'll make sure that we get the graphics back there, yeah. And this is going to continue moving off towards the northeast. This tornado warning only in effect until 5:15 because the storms are moving so fast. So as we look at reflectivity, there's nothing just looking at that tells us this is a tornado-producing storm. We really have to look at the wind fields. But it's moving very quickly. The tornado warning box, again, does go up towards Arkadelphia, but we're watching really central Clark County. And if you go up off towards the east of Gurdon, there's a couple of major roads that I think you should be aware of. If you're in Gurdon, Smithton, Curtis, and then over towards anywhere really east of US 67 in central Clark County, go to your safe place. Again, this is broad rotation, but I think taking your tornado precautions is a good idea. The Weather Service certainly thought it was a good idea. They had one of those scans, Barry, where the rotation tightened enough for them to feel like a tornado could be imminent.
Yeah, I think that's why they went with that. It's all part of a long line, kind of a broken line there, but embedded within that occasional tightening, and that's why we just play it safe rather than sorry on days like this, where there's a lot of turn in the atmosphere as the winds go up. And so as storms build up, you can have winds from different directions at the surface and then up above, and that's just imparts spin to the atmosphere, and so these storms can also spin. And it's in Clark County that we're looking at right there, but it extends all the way up to Benton.
Hey Barry, I think we've got another warning. This is much closer to the metro area. This is going to be
the one on up here to the southeast of Hot Springs near Malvern.
Yeah, and this circulation actually looks a whole lot more impressive.
Okay.
And so this is right on I-30. We're going to have to pull up some cameras because this just developed west of Glen Rose. If you're in Glen Rose, get in a safe place right now. This is about to move into the southern section of Saline County, not Pulaski County, Saline County. I believe this is going to head right for Haskell, and this is going to stay right along I-30. So this is a very quick forming area of rotation, and I spotted it because Barry, you can kind of see on reflectivity where the wind is getting into the storm and wrapping back around. So probably wrapped in rain, but if you're in southern Saline County or northeast Hot Spring County, seek shelter immediately, and I think this is going to be one where we might be able to pick up a debris signature here if it remains this impressive. Again, this is going into Glen Rose, Kirkpatrick Road, Glen Rose Road, Butler Lane, County Road 66. This entire area right along US 67. Get to a safe spot right now. This is also right along I-30. I think it's going to be on the south side. And Barry, while you look at the details of the storm, I'm going to look at the iDrive Arkansas website and see if we can find anything, if there's any cameras in that area.
Yeah, I've just pulled some up. They're up around Haskell, though, which is actually a little north of the rotation center. So we've got one, and I've actually pulled it up there. But, James, you can go ahead and do that. But it's right on I-30. If we can go back to Max 2, it's right on I-30, that center of rotation, and it has really ramped up. Now, this is closer to the Little Rock radar site, but this is a pretty obvious tightening there, and you see those really bright greens and bright reds, and they've gotten a little bit closer. We call that a couplet. Within the same storm, you see that turning, and so it's right there and moving roughly parallel to I-30. It may go just to the south side of that as it moves up toward Haskell. If you're in Traskwood, you're also in that tornado warning. This is the time to get into the safest spot in your home, which is the lowest floor, and it is the most interior part of your house, away from exterior walls and windows. And we'll continue to watch new updates, but that is right there. And moving off to the northeast, I'm going to go back in time just a few frames here and show you as it began to wind up. Wasn't much to it, very broad. This was at 446. But look, the bright greens and bright reds there as it started to move up to the northeast. And there's a lot of outflow from the Little Rock radar site right there. There's Fairplay Road that is moving, that goes down toward I-30. A lot of outflow. So that's very strong winds going away from the radar site, coupled with toward, and you can see another little area of rotation there. So that's a very tight rotation east of I-30, and it will be moving up toward the Haskell area. So if you're in that far northern part of Clark County, and then moving on up into to Saline County, this is actually Hot Spring County, into Saline County. And if you're in that area, as I-30 just comes in, it's just to the south of the interstate there. If there's any good news, it looks like the rotation is not right on top of I-30, but it's very close to it. And I'm going to put this into motion. And this is over the last 30 minutes, and you can see how just the wind field has not only gotten a lot stronger, but it's tightened up. And I think it's really tightening up now, James, if I had to guess. I would say let's completely assume that there's a tornado on the ground around Glen Rose, in that area right there.
The good news is I don't have a debris signature, so
well, as of
it
yet,
takes
right.
a scan to show up, but hopefully one doesn't. But that's a very strong area of rotation, and just given what we know the wind profiles look like today, that very well could produce a tornado, if not right now, as it moves into Saline County. So that we're pretty much zoomed right in on Glen Rose, but if you are in Haskell or Traskwood, or in the southern section of Saline County, go ahead and seek shelter. This warning also includes the northern sections of Grant County, Tull included in that. Now, these things can sometimes take a turn to the right, so I would say if you're in the northern section of Grant County, seek shelter as well. This tornado warning does include Benton and Bryant, and the motion on this storm is at 65 miles per hour. It is racing northeast, so even for those of you off to the northeast, there's not a whole lot of time to get into a tornado shelter, and I would advise those of you in Benton and Bryant, especially on the south side, go ahead and get in your tornado safe place. These don't always move in a straight line. Sometimes they can veer north. Sometimes the storm can turn right, and then it'll put down a tornado. I think we should be getting an update here any minute, and it looks like this is taking more of an eastwardly track, just based on the last few frames I've seen.
It is, and that's not a good thing.
Yeah, that's going to
because that means it's something called right moving. If these storms are moving and then they begin to move just a little bit off to the east of that, that is a bigger indication of possible tornado there. But it is moving to the south of Traskwood. If you're or up toward Traskwood, I'm going to move it so you can see it just a little bit better here. But the area out to the west of Traskwood there, and those are where the reds and the greens are coming together. Moving, this is West Main Street coming up out of Traskwood right here, and it'll be moving in that area. If it's moving a little east of due northeast, it's going to be very close to Traskwood here as it comes across Highway 229 and 291, then intersects there at Traskwood. So if you're in this area, as it moves into Saline County, folks, you've got to get into that safe spot. We're urging you to do it. We know where the rotation is. It's not a mystery where it is. We don't know that it's producing a tornado, but we are definitely going to assume that this storm is, just given what's going on in the atmosphere today. You've got time if you're in this area, but rush it to completion of where you're going to go. And again, on up, as we head on up toward Haskell, this is something that we're going to have to watch very, very closely. The radar reflectivity part of it, you can see a little bit of a notch in there as well. But the rotation part would seem to be right on the south side of where that notch is. So in the Traskwood area, and then moving up to Haskell. On down the road would be Benton, bauxite and areas just down to the south of bauxite. The most helpful thing that we do, though, is show you the wind field inside this storm. And it continues to move off to the northeast. There's the latest one, and it's just moving now, James, into that southwestern part of Saline County. And that's where the couplet is right now. I don't know if that scan is quite as strong, and we certainly hope it's not, but we're still assuming that that is a tornado.
You know, I think looking at the observation at Little Rock and at Pine Bluff, I think this storm is trying to ride the boundary. And so it taking a right turn is not good. Because if it came right up into Little Rock, I think it would hit some cooler air and may not be able to produce a tornado. But looking at the observations now at Benton and Bryant, the dew point 62, but off towards southeast and Pine Bluff and back towards Arkadelphia, it was a lot warmer. So we'll just stick with the reflectivity scan here. Over the next couple of moments, it really developed very quickly, and over the last couple of scans has just started to take more of an straight eastwardly direction. If you're in Traskwood or Haskell, you've got to be in a safe place right now. We'll start looking at the energy maps to see if there are any power outages. This is unfortunately looking a little bit more classic as compared to the one down south. You've got your inflow notch right there. This is getting wrapped back around into all that rain, and if a tornado is going to be produced, it's going to be right there, right now on the county line. And the good news is, right now there's no indication that a tornado is down, but some strong rotation is there, and this is giving us all the indications of a storm that very well at some point could produce a tornado. So you issue the tornado warnings in hopes that you have enough lead time before a tornado is on the ground. And Barry, you know, it's kind of got the shape there that you look at on some of our bigger tornado days. It's kind of what it looks like as we start out.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we're continuing to watch that entire line. That's the most troublesome spot. There's new information in from the Storm Prediction Center, and they're saying that although the southwest part of the state is under a tornado watch, they will likely be issuing one for the southeastern part of the state up into east central Arkansas. This whole area from Pine Bluff all the way up into Arkansas County and on up to the I-40 corridor will likely be placed under tornado watch. But the storm that we're watching right now kind of is the one that we're the most concerned about, as it has a definite rotation to it. You can see how the drier air is being pulled around. I say relatively drier air, but there is a rotation center there. And if we look at the area from Traskwood up to Haskell, yeah, it's a little broader, but this wind going away from, it's a large supercell, it appears, and the wind coming toward the radar site and maybe a little more displaced from one another, but this, where they come together right there along Highway 229 between Traskwood and Haskell, that's where you need to be in a safe spot, and then it will move on up and be moving up in an area that would take it toward bauxite. It could be south of there. There's a little bit broader view. There's bauxite right there. We're still looking at this area here. Right now, though, it's certainly a wind producer, James, and I think we're going to see damaging winds with these if it is not a tornado.
Yeah, I certainly think so. I want to go back to the storm that is in Clark County. We do have rotation still active there. This is now through Gurdon, and this is moving off towards the northeast as well. We're going to continue to watch this one. This is in central Clark County. I'm also looking at the Entergy Arkansas website. There are numerous power outages north and northeast of Arkadelphia. I think that may be due to high winds. That's where some high winds moved earlier. I think as you look down towards Traskwood and Haskell, there's numerous power outages now towards the west on I-30. And Barry, maybe we can get that pulled up on Storm Scan. There are numerous power outages right around I-30. Now, that could just be due to wind. We don't know, but there was a possible tornado in the vicinity of there just a few moments ago. Traskwood, you got to be in a safe place. There's quite a bit of wind moving away from the radar as we have good inflow coming into Traskwood with the storm that is right now right on top of you. It still looks like, Barry, that this is really trying to wrap up. And when I say that, I mean the tighter the wind field can get, the faster the winds will move. So everybody in southern Saline County, please take your tornado precautions right now. I don't think we have a tornado down at this moment, We do possibly have some damage off towards the west, but this is going to be one you want to pay attention to. I don't think that's a debris signature right there, but I'll try to verify. So Barry, we get 2 storms in the state. I think this one is the most impressive at the current time.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that's why it's under a tornado warning. And there's quite a bit of power that is out, and it's along I-30, and it is in an area. This is the Entergy map out to the west of Traskwood, over toward I-30, and a broad area there along Highway 67 and to the north. So it's generally in this area right in through here that we've had power outages. And remember where the rotation was? It was right there. All right, this is the new scan here. This looks a lot broader than it did, but it still looks like that there is it's trying to rotate right there. Wind's coming toward the radar site. A lot of wind coming toward or going away from the radar site here. And so it would be this area right to the southeast side of Haskell that we would be concerned about. But we're looking all up and down this line. And again, looking at the rain part of it, you don't see a lot. You have to look at the wind part of it, and that's the great thing about Doppler radar, that you can see inside. Here's what the radar looks like, and you can see the rain moving in to the Little Rock area. The evening commute home is going to be pretty busy here and pretty wet with torrential rain and flash flooding. But it's just down to the south where the air is so much more unstable, and that's why there is that tornado warning that's down there. Benton, you are technically in the tornado warning. I'm going to zoom in again on it. And here's the velocity product then. Yeah, it is not quite what it was, but there continue to be power outages there, and I'm seeing a lot of power outages now, all along 270 from Malvern over to Hot Springs. There are a lot of power outages, so it makes me think that whether or not there was a tornado, there is so much wind and wind energy that's translating down to the ground. Obviously, if there is a tight rotation like we saw earlier over here, you can accentuate that wind field. It's not just a broad area of 70 or 80 mile per hour winds perhaps, but it can be in a smaller area with a tornado. You can get much more damage if that comes on down to the ground. But for right now, I don't see a lot different on that storm, still tornado warned storm. And I'm going to ask you still to be in your safe spot all the way from Tull up toward Benton and Bauxite, and just be on the lookout for this storm as it approaches. James?
All right, Barry. This storm is moving at 65 miles per hour very quickly. Now, I've got a storm track on it that only goes with 50 miles per hour, so these are rough estimates. But if this storm continues on its current track, maintaining its intensity, and it's riding the boundary between the cool, rain-cooled air and the warm, humid air to the south. These are the storms you don't want. The ones that ride the boundary sometimes can produce your worst tornadoes. East End, Wrightsville in southern Pulaski County, and then down the line in Lonoke County, England, maybe Keogh, Scott, southern Pulaski County. You need to be on the lookout. But East End, you're going to be up next, and it's not going to take long. We'll continue to diagnose the storm. Thankfully, the rotation has not wrapped up just yet, but what I want to show you here is kind of what the storm is trying to do. As I watch this in motion, I think it's kind of easier to see the wind, the forward flank downdraft kind of making its way north, and while this wind wraps around to the back. So I think that that's kind of the precursor to a tornado being down. And as we look for a sign of anything on the ground, we've had nothing other than just a few power outages. I don't think there's anything definitive on correlation coefficient. This is now really on the Grant-Saline County line, the area that we are concerned with. And while I don't think we have a tornado maybe at this moment, I think we very well could get one as we go through the next 10 minutes watching this. It's just kind of in the perfect spot, I think, to get a tornado. And on reflectivity, just looking at the overall structure of the storm, I mean, this is exactly what you look for. You get high winds and heavy rain back towards Benton and Bryant. You've got the wind coming in here on the front flank of the storm with the possible embedded tornado back here towards the west on the Saline and Grant County line. Barry, this probably could be one we have to watch for a little while. I would hope that maybe we could get some rain-cooled air maybe entrained within this storm that could kill it, but I think it's right on the line.
Yeah, it's kind of out the leading edge of it as well, and so that's what is worrisome about it. And like you said, there's still so much wind energy, and there's some circulation center that's trying. I think it's just trying to find a spot over as it moves over across Highway 190 right there to reproduce a tornado, if indeed there was one. The rotation was a lot tighter, and I'm seeing a lot of power outages now, all the way from Malvern up along Highway 270 for a broad area of that, up into that I-30 corridor there out to the west of Traskwood. And I'm just looking, all the way up to Traskwood, power still on in Traskwood. And then all the way down to the south of Malvern, a lot of people are without power right now. So it makes me think that maybe some larger transmission line might have been hit somewhere up in the vicinity of Malvern or just north, and it's taken power away from a large area that branches out from that. Let's go back to, we're on Max 1, and I'll just show you the reflectivity product here, just the rain product that we're looking at. And it, again, is extending into the northern part of Grant County and into southern Saline County, the tornado warning. And that little notch right there is the boundary between some really warm air down to the south. And here in Little Rock, we're getting rain. I would imagine our temperature is falling here. It's thunder and lightning outside here, but it's generally just the rain that we're looking at. And on velocity, gosh, there's a ton of wind there. And where those two meet, where it's trying to be wrapped around that center, it's at least possible that this is putting out to the east of Traskwood now, that it is possibly right in there trying to produce another tornado. We're seeing a little bit more maybe ramping up as it moves off to the east, eventually moving over toward that east end area. And I know folks that live in this corridor from past tornadoes through the years are very gun shy probably about storms that come through that area. But we're not saying that there is a tornado on the ground at all, but be in your safe spot. East end, you're not technically in the tornado warning right now, but there's a lot of wind energy with this storm, and even if it doesn't produce a tornado, it can produce down trees. It can have, trees can go on houses, on power lines. Don't touch a downed power line. It seems fairly obvious, but if it's on the roadway, leave it alone. And so those are some of the things that we need to think about as we head through the next few hours. This will not last forever tonight, folks. This is going to be a storm system that's going to be in and out of here fairly quickly, but we've got a rough patch of time to go through here as this area is relatively without rain. Now, there are some showers, and Pine Bluff actually getting some rain within the vicinity. Every little bit of rain that we get out in advance of that line is a good thing. But for now, these storms are kind of riding the leading edge. Is this warning still in effect down in Clark County? I thought that was expired.
They
so
let
that is
go,
gone.
yeah.
That's good news. And but we watched this one down to the southwest of the Little Rock area. Now, once this area goes past, you can see out to the west, that is very stabilized air with all this rain that has gone through. It's really cooled things down. We'll continue to watch it. James, I'm going to look again at the power outages. Last I saw, it was about 10,000, almost 10,000 within the state, primarily southwest Arkansas.
What we're watching right now, I think they're going to make a decision on this tornado warning, whether to extend it or not here. They're going to make that decision here just in the next couple of minutes, Barry. There's just this inflow notch, that even though the rotation maybe not say for sure there's a tornado right there, I think as we go through the next few moments, as it approaches east end, you're just going to want to be in your tornado safe place because this is moving so fast and it can develop just like that. So the area of rotation is south of Bryant, south of Bauxite. There's your inflow right there. Your broad area of rotation is right there. We will continue to monitor it to see if it looks any better, like it wants to produce a tornado. Again, Barry, to me, having covered tornadoes for 4 years, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, this looks like a storm that at some point is going to produce a tornado. It's not right now, but at some point it's going to. It just kind of has that look where maybe somewhere down the line here in eastern Saline County, we're going to get this to wrap up and the tornado will be on the ground. So
Yeah.
I want everyone to take their tornado safe place, Iron Springs, East End, and even into southern Pulaski County.
Right, Sardis Road, moving over toward East End there, and I totally agree with you. We just see so much this storm the wind's going away from an elongated area, and it doesn't look classic right now, but I think at any point we could see it within there. So, as you said, Iron Springs and East End, you need to go to that safe spot in your house, even though you're not technically warned. It is so great to be able to look at the radar site or the radar here and see things like debris in the air, and we haven't seen that with this storm, or a very tight coupling of those winds that go away from and toward the radar site. Right now, we're still looking at power outages that are climbing 11,262. That's in the Entergy system only. That doesn't account for other areas of the state that are in the electric co-ops of Arkansas. But it is that area south of Malvern and all the way down into southern Hot Spring County, and then on up toward Traskwood and Haskell, and as it moves off to the northeast. Just looking for a new radar scan to come through here, but as we wait for that, I'm going to go back and we'll zoom out and show you what's moving through Little Rock right now. We are not under a severe thunderstorm warning right now. We are under flash flood warning, though, and look at just the amount of rainfall that this air lifted up over that boundary that we talked about just down to the south, and it is just wringing every bit of moisture it can out of it from Maumelle to Jacksonville. The ground is saturated. If you've been outside, it can't take a whole lot more. So if an inch or two comes in a very short period of time in a spot within this, it's going to be just very easy for flooding to occur. We've already had several reports of flooding
Barry,
over into the western part of the state.
They are extending the tornado warning into southern Pulaski County.
Yeah, erring on the side of caution, if anything. I think that's wise.
So that's for East End, Wrightsville, Woodson, Shannon Hills, several spots. This does not include Little Rock. But this does include East End. And if you're in East End, you've got to be in a safe place right now. I don't think there's a tornado on the ground this very moment, but I think one could develop here at any moment.
Exactly right. Yeah, it doesn't look obvious at all, does it? But I just tell you, on days like this, it's moving at 65 miles per hour. So you're inconvenienced for 10 minutes as it moves past. That's not a great amount of time. And it's rare to be hit by a tornado. But in the event it happens, you want to be in that safe spot, and you'll be in and out of here. If you have the KATV app on your phone, the news app, our coverage is streaming live on there right now. If you have the KATV weather app, you can get warning notifications for your specific spot where you are, and you can set them, you can customize them. You can still do that if you're in the area on out to the east of here. But this is what we're looking at, a new tornado warning, and it heads all the way over to 530, and we're 67 branches off there as it heads down toward Sheridan. So Iron Springs, East End, Sardis Road, that's the area we're watching. And for right now, it doesn't appear to look a lot different than it did, but we're waiting for a new scan to come through. And I'll just back up in time, and you can kind of just keep an eye on the reds and the greens here. I'm just going to jog through it. And it's just a lot of wind energy, probably a little more wind energy in the last few scans there. But where those two meet, that would be an area that we would really be focused on. Sometimes you'll say, I don't know where I am in relation to this, and we get that. We're going to back out. I'll show you Little Rock is up to the north of this. Raining in Little Rock right now. We don't have a tornado threat here, but just down to the south of town we do. And if you look at the radar here, it is just pouring out there. Those areas in southeast Arkansas, like Pine Bluff, over to Wabaseka and...
Barry, I think I'm getting texts, and I think I can hear them from in here. I think we have tornado sirens going off here in the downtown area. I do not think there is any tornado threat up into the downtown area. This is for southern Pulaski County. The far southern part of Pulaski County. So it includes Wrightsville and Woodson, and especially in southern Saline County, East End, and any surrounding spots. I don't think we have something down right now, but again, It's got the look of something that wants to produce a tornado. There are certain precursors you can look for, and this has it. So southern Pulaski County, southern Saline County, get to a safe spot right now. Hopefully this doesn't produce anything. Hopefully it's cool enough that we don't have to worry about it. But man, Barry, is riding the boundary. You've got the rain-cooled air towards the north, the warm, humid air to the south, and on a smaller scale, the clash of air masses certainly makes a difference.
Yeah, even the reflectivity, it's just wrapping something around that rain center. I do want to tell you that the tornado watch that we anticipated for southeast Arkansas up into the northeastern part of the east central and northeast part of the state, it has been issued, and I don't know the end time on that. I'm going to guess it's around 10 o'clock tonight, but it was just issued, and so it has populated all these counties in the eastern part of the state. We're going to watch that. It's very warm over there. I emphasize to you, this is not going to be an all-night event, but it will last into the evening, especially even into east and southeast Arkansas. And there's the tornado warning. It's to the south of the Little Rock area. And as I look at radar, if there are tornado sirens going off in the Little Rock area, sometimes if it's anywhere in Pulaski County, sometimes it can erroneously go off in another part of the county. We've seen that happen before, but that's why you watch us here, because then we can show you exactly where the rotation is with this. And I do want to show you the dark green areas are flash flood warnings, and that broad area of the state is where flooding is definitely possible, and then a watch extends out from that. So let's go back to that storm, though, and we'll see if anything looks any different with it. This is approaching East End right now. There is a tornado warning there. It's the red and the red polygon, and it moves up to the northeast and eventually would move toward Wrightsville. It would be in the area around Woodson as well. So if you're anywhere along this line from Woodson Lateral Road there, and where 167 breaks off, go into your safe spot in your house. I know a lot of you folks have lived there for a number of years. You know the history of tornadoes within that area. That doesn't necessarily mean there's a tornado on the ground there, but you, in all likelihood, know where your safe spot is in your house. And I'm going to just ask you to go to that lowest floor, away from exterior walls and windows. Still, not a classic sign, but if there was any rotation with this, it would be somewhere around East End. James, I think maybe moving over 367 here very soon.
Yeah, again, looking at radar, and if we had a tornado on the ground, we would know it. Highly populated area, very close to the radar site. This is not as well organized as it was 5 minutes ago. That's a good sign. However, I don't think that we can just discount the storm from here. It's very quickly moving, and we had the inflow notch for a number of scans, and now it's kind of getting absorbed in an area of heavy rain. So hopefully that heavy rain can make a difference where the tornado potential for this storm continues to go down. But as we look at the wind field, what you'll notice here is that you've got an area of very strong winds off towards the north, and then you have this area of winds coming in from the south. And so you still don't have anything where these two are coming together and actually producing a tornado. But the setup right here, where you've got this storm kind of tapping into both of those, is concerning, and that's why the tornado warning is in effect. So Woodson, Wrightsville, you see the tornado warning box is not in effect for a large area. I think they were wanting to see rather if it would fall apart, or if maybe it would strengthen and they would issue a new tornado warning, because this warning only goes into the really far west and southwest sections of Pulaski County. So we're going to continue to keep an eye on this. The radar scan is now updating about every 2 to 3 minutes, so we're getting new data. There's just a lot of rain going on, kind of being absorbed into this.
Yeah.
So hopefully this kind of band off towards the south is kind of getting ingested into that storm. Hopefully that's going to make a difference, and it's going to shut down the tornado potential. We may have already seen really in these last couple of scans where it struggled to produce tornado. Maybe that's why, and hopefully that continues.
That's a good analysis. I think there's rain out here from Scott all the way down to east of Wrightsville. that area, it's been raining for a while, and that does not bode well for instability in the atmosphere. That stabilizes the atmosphere, and so hopefully that's what you're seeing, plus the rain that's being pulled in. I think that's spot on, James, and as this storm moves off to the northeast, hopefully we see no tightening in that. But until the tornado warning is out, obviously we're going to keep you warned on this. We're going to be on the air and following all of these storms. That is the most interesting, I would say, storm on our interesting in a bad way, on the radar in the entire state here. But for us here in Little Rock area, it's rain on up to Morgan and Maumelle and Conway. It's rainfall, and it's heavy rainfall at that. And we're just hoping that that rain begins to break out. Even in southeast Arkansas, I will tell you, there's a number of spots from Fordyce, Pine Bluff, on up to Wabaseka and Stuttgart where there's not much rainfall, but there are areas where it is raining, including well down into southeast Arkansas around Monticello. But pardon me, that is the tornado warned storm. It's been shrunk down just to include that small area, and we'll go back into it, and because we just want to keep a very vigilant watch on the large amount of wind and that broad rotation there. It is pulling. Mainly, it looks like rain into that storm rather than drier air, and it's around to the backside of it as well. So there's a lot of broad rotation there. And east end, you're in your tornado warned spot right now, down from Shannon Hills southward. This storm is very quickly passing by the area. No obvious sign of tornado with it, but we're going to assume that there is, getting that low spot in your house, that most interior spot in your house. And that's always, we say it so often, be safe rather than sorry in these instances, because it doesn't take much for a tree, especially a pine tree, especially when it's rained as much as it is, and it is raining with a strong wind gust to push a tree down. And we see that all the time. I'm looking at power outages in the state, about 13,000 now without power. And a lot of those were that Malvern area to the south of Malvern, up 270 toward Hot Springs, and then an area out to the west of Traskwood. So something occurred there, whether it was just wind or perhaps a tornado touched down and did some damage. But all along I-30 out to the west of Traskwood and just down to the south of it there are plenty of power outages. Still looking at this, and I don't know, James, perhaps right around East End, that would be the center of what circulation exists there?
Yeah, and as I go in to diagnose it further, I don't think that's coupled. So I don't think there's any tornado there. But yes, this would be where we're watching. Again, I really don't think that we have anything down at the moment. That's great news. Looks like the Weather Service in Little Rock continues to monitor. We'll see what their update is here in a few minutes, because here in a few moments, Barry, this is going to be on the edge of the tornado warning box. Again, all embedded within an area of heavy rain now. So tornadoes today, and especially going into the evening, will be very difficult to see. I do want to bring up that the conditions at Pine Bluff, just off towards the south, are very, very conducive for tornadoes. Temperatures in the 70s, the dew point's in the upper 60s. So if warm, humid air gets pulled up into this, yes, you could end up with a tornado somewhere across southern Pulaski County, northern Jefferson County, eastern, southern Lonoke County. So I think the conditions are in the right place. Now it's just up to the storm to find a way. Hopefully it does not. I think as we've gone through the last 10 minutes, the heavy rain may have made a difference. One other thing I want to point out is kind of the forward flank right here is kind of pushing out in advance of the storm. So as soon as this warm, humid air gets cut off, any threat of a tornado would end, Barry. I think perhaps the tornado maybe not as imminent as it was maybe what looked like 10 minutes ago. But this is one we got to watch, because I think it's right on the boundary, and conditions are favorable for a storm like this to produce a tornado.
Yeah, there's still rotation there. But I think there's a lot of rainfall along with it as well. Let me just show you our Futurecast model, and we're going to start about an hour from now. And this is it's lining up pretty well, and I'm just going to put it into motion for you and show you at 7:30 tonight. Look at this, a lot of activity east, southeast Arkansas. And all except southeast Arkansas, that's at 8:30 tonight. This is going to be gone from the state. But again, we'll be watching all the way down into the southeasternmost corner of Arkansas. But this is something that's going to be in and out of here fairly quickly. So let's go back and I'll show you this does not look like a tornado producer right now. There is still a tornado warning on this storm as it approaches Wrightsville and Woodson. But I think this is kind of the wind coming out of it is creating some uplift. There's rain out in advance of it, and it doesn't look as foreboding, perhaps, as it did. But the tornado warning does continue, and that is until, unless canceled early, it will be until 5:30. Is that correct? Morning.
Yeah,
anyway,
I believe so.
Yeah, 5:30. So the National Weather Service, that was the old one. This is a new one right now. But the leading edge of this is where there would be that rotation, and it's nearing the edge of the polygon here. So the National Weather Service will have to look at this. While there's still a bowed out nature to this, and there could be wind in advance of it, and at any moment it could produce a tornado. Right now, I see a lot of rainfall there, and we are close, as James mentioned, to the radar site. So this means that we can see it very, very clearly. And if there was some rotation in there, I think we would be we'd be well aware of it. We're going to go back, and I'll show you just the radar velocity product on it. Looks like just a very broad area of winds coming toward the radar site, and some going away, but they're certainly not coupled together here. Although, if you're on Highway 167 or where it meets 530 right now, there's plenty of wind out there and there's plenty of rain. Traveling conditions are just trash here in the evening rush.
Barry, on StormScan, I've got some iDrive Arkansas cameras pulled up, and I believe, if we can go to StormScan, Tyrone, I've gotten reports of a couple of areas of flooding on the south side of Little Rock, and there are areas you kind of see the ponding water there looking at the bridge and the culvert there that is full of water. And specifically, it was off exit 135, and we're kind of in that vicinity. So drive safe if you're out there. The tornado warning continues for those of you that are traveling south along 530. There's the RDOT Central Office Tower Cam. Conditions just not very favorable for anything right now. In the metro area.
Yeah, just pouring in southwest Little Rock along I-30.
And also, Barry, here momentarily, I will get the chime in pulled up. We've got a few pictures, none of damage, but of some flooding and some shelf clouds is something that we can look at here going into the 6 o'clock newscast. I believe that tornado warning has been canceled. What I'm showing you now is power outages. There's numerous power outages across Hot Spring County and into southern Saline County. Probably a lot of lightning is to blame for that. Maybe some high wind as well. But there is no way to tell until we go look at it.
All right, so I'm going to show you here what we're looking at. There's some of those power outages. That's out by Traskwood and on down to the southwest. But you can see the new severe thunderstorm warning that the National Weather Service has put into effect. And so that goes from the southeastern part of Pulaski County all the way, that southeast corner of Pulaski County, over into Lonoke County as well, and maybe just a few square miles of extreme northern Jefferson County. And so that is the warned area right now. We're looking at the wind field inside it. The Weather Service has said that the wind field within this, the kind of the parent storm, the area of dynamics within this column of air here remains favorable for tornado development, but they see no sign that one is being produced right there. So watch out for the flooding. There are going to be a number of roads, especially those roads that commonly flood when we have heavy rainfall like this. We're going to continue to keep an eye on it.
Barry, real quick.
Okay.
I think
James,
we should look into southeast Arkansas.
Okay.
We've been saying that's where the highest threat will be. Well, now we've got some storms down there moving into Ashley County and Bradley County that kind of have the early looks of what could be supercells. So nothing imminent, but we're certainly going to be watching this part of the state down there. So if you're sitting in Drew, Chico, Deshay County, Ashley County, and you've been watching what's happened up in central Arkansas, just stay with us. I think we'll have some of these storms try to rotate eventually.
Okay, yeah, that's a good heads up there because that is a very unstable part of the state, 80 degrees or thereabouts, and lots of humidity. We're going to send it back to programming now. We have no active tornado warnings in effect, but just let me tell you that if you see on the corner of our screen, you'll see the map. If you're in that severe thunderstorm warned area, watch that very closely. If there is any inkling of rotation, we will be back on the air, and or if there's a tornado warning. Even if there's not, sometimes we'll come back on the air there, but you can see that area of southeast Arkansas still devoid of rain in a lot of spots. So that's a troubling area for us. It's not going to last all night, folks. We'll send you to World News Tonight, and then we'll be back on if any of these storms appear to be rotating. Leave it right here.